Okay, hey guys, Team Forever Forward coming back at you with podcast number 2 today.
All about goals.
Yes.
Goal setting, goal management, how to stay to your goals, and also...
If you're a coach.
And if you're a coach, talking through how to go about managing expectations, giving them what they need and what they want, that fine little balance going through that. But yeah, start off with then. Let's go straight in with the first logical step, which is going to be how about you go setting your goal. What you should do when you're setting the goal.
So, first off, when you've got to really figure out what your goal is. You base it around what you want to achieve, not what other people want you to achieve, or say someone else has a goal, you set the same goal as what they have. It's got to be what you personally want to achieve, I think.
Yeah, that's a big bit, and I think that's what people tend to muck up on or mess up on.
It's a simple thing, but
you don't actually spend the time to think about what you want. And when we say what you want, we literally mean what you want. So not necessarily what other people around you want from you, but also not just looking at someone else and just taking on their goal as yours.
Yeah.
They may be similar, but just actually... the first bit, although it sounds really simple, people skip past it.
Making it personal to you.
Just take some time to actually think about what you care about and what it is that you actually want to achieve. So I always say, if the thought of that, achieving that goal, so when you sit down and think about achieving it, if that thought doesn't get you excited, then you should probably reevaluate what you want to do. And maybe that's not actually something you care about. Because if you're not excited about achieving the goal, then why the hell is it a goal?
And if it's a priority to you, like loads of people say, the majority thing is, my goal is weight loss. But then they come up with loads of excuses as to why they can't do it. Yeah. And it's like, well, is it really a priority to you? Then you've got to...
how bad are you wanting that goal?
Yeah, because if you wanted it, you'd really go out and get it. The other thing is be realistic when you're setting that goal.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
Yeah, you can't reach out and try and achieve things that just aren't realistic. And maybe you might need guidance as to what's realistic and what's not realistic. And we'll talk about that later on. As for coaches, is how to tell your clients what's realistic and what's not. But maybe... if you're struggling with setting a goal, seek out a coach, seek out someone that can help you lay out a goal and a plan to get there as well, which is probably what I think we'll move on to.
Yeah, when we talk about that, but that is a big one. And I think the trouble is if you are, well, you may be a fitness professional listening to this, and you may be a coach, in which case you should have an idea of how long stuff takes.
Yeah.
But if you're not, and you're just in this to try and figure out how to get to where you want to be, there is so much misinformation out there that will capitalize on your kind of want to get it faster.
Yeah.
So that's going to kind of skew your idea of how realistic these things are. So a lot of the time, if you're looking at losing weight and you're looking at these workouts or these diets and they're offering some mad time frame really quick, then you probably should question that. But that main thing is just being realistic about one, what you can achieve, and two, how long, because you definitely can achieve a lot, but sometimes it's even if you had all the time in the world, sometimes those goals aren't going to happen. For example, me wanting to deadlift 500 kilos is a bit of a mad goal. So unless I get some bionic limbs somehow.
Yeah, get your legs and
get some transplants. That's it. Some
sort
mecha
of
thing. Some
bionic man.
But yeah, so it's just being realistic about one, whether you can actually achieve it, and you can achieve a lot. But it's just sometimes people just have ridiculous kind of suggestions, and I think that ties into the fact that they haven't actually thought about what they want.
Yeah, you've got to take the time to sit down and really think about it. So. Let's talk about how we set goals, or how I set goals is whether this is me or with my clients, and it can also be, this isn't necessarily just fitness related, this could be anything like business, life in general, nutrition, exercise, everything. Is I go, what is the goal? Why is that the goal? And when do I want to achieve it by? So what sort of time frame there is, And you can do that with everything, like business. What do you want to achieve? I want to have X amount of clients in X, and why do you want that goal? And then when do you want to achieve it by? So
that's a good way of doing it. And also, I mean, to build from that, how I'd kind of do is just getting that overall sense of what that long-term goal is. So just breaking it into sections. So you might have that overall long-term goal. So that's the big one to have. Make sure you've got that, because that's going to keep you going through the process. But then you've got to have smaller ones along the way.
Yeah.
And like even down to daily goals, weekly goals, monthly goals, all should lead up to that point. So setting that goal is like setting your destination and your sat nav, and the fact that that's where you want to be.
Yeah.
But then you've got to figure out how you're actually going to get there, and you've got to set like each little bit right. I'm going to take this right here to get all these little ways to keep you going that long term, to keep you kind of focused, because otherwise you're like, right, I've got to get to this place, but I have no idea how I'm going to get there. So you need to set longer term goals and then break it down into the kind of shorter time spans to give you an idea of how to get there as well.
And don't just think about it, like actually write down what that is, like
what that
long-term goal, whatever it is, the destination on the sat nav, and then break it down. What is that? What do I need to do in half a year to get to that goal? Then monthly, and then daily, setting even daily targets.
Yeah, like that's it. Because the long term thing, you can't like, if you've got a goal that's like 2 years away, or maybe even more, or maybe a year away, it's going to be really hard to plan out exactly what you're doing a year from now and what you're having to do. So you should have that overall idea in your head about what I want to achieve. So I've got my numbers that I want to achieve for powerlifting, but then you need all those shorter term goals to actually do like the programming side, and actually what I need to do right now to get there. That's why also you need those short term things. It's kind of like the programming of it. So that long term goal is that kind of thing you want to get to, but again, you don't know what you're needing to do there. You need to figure out what you need to do now, a month from now, and then just keep trugging along from there.
Having that long term view. I think one of the things with goal setting, I never really used to do this too much, but I went to a Dan John workshop, and he started it with, what's your goal 20 years from now, to everyone. And we were just stumped. We were like, oh, I haven't thought that far down the line. And his was, he wanted to be able to dance at his granddaughter's wedding or something like that. And I was like, that's a really cool goal. Like, just being able to have that foresight for like a really, really long-term goal is...
that's a big one as well for a career as well.
Yeah.
Can you see yourself doing this
in 20 years time?
And will you be happy doing that as well? Again, that tying it back into that whole like excited about achieving it, etc. If you're doing a career that you won, like the thought of doing it for the next, like, that's the thing. So that 20-year thing, you might be able to vision yourself doing it for like 2 years maybe, because it seems short. But if you said, oh, but you've got to do this for the next 20 years, then it might wake you up a little bit in terms of like, oh, probably should change this a little bit in terms of that. That's good. So that's the first bit mainly to cover. I don't know if you want to add anything else about setting up the goal itself.
No, not on setting up the goal.
No.
I feel like so the next bit is sort of going through how you can achieve getting that goal.
Well, I think just in general, the next step is just actually just staying with it. Oh, okay, you want to talk more plan stuff, or do you want to go into...
Well, just understanding what you've got to do to get there. So, like, for example, I know some people who set their goal as to squat X amount. Yeah. But yet, so that's their goal, but yet they don't squat frequently. So, that can't be your goal if you're not squatting. And stuff like that.
Yeah, so that's so tying in with that kind of sat nav analogy in terms of you've got that destination, but now you've actually got to lay out that roadmap about how you get there. And then if you're sitting there thinking, I don't know how to get there, then that's a sign that you need to go and get some assistance and professional advice about how to do it to set you up to get you there. Because at the end of the day, if that's your goal and if that's something you really want to achieve, then that's something you've got to actually figure out how to get there, because it's pointless you being like, right, well, this is my goal, but I have no clue how to get there, because then you're just going to be sat there not doing anything, and then that's,
you're not going to actually take action on it.
So and then I think after that it's just actually sticking to it.
So staying true to your goal. You've got to keep along that process, especially if you've got a long-term goal.
Yeah.
You don't want to lose sight and
Exactly.
sort of veer off of what you wanted to achieve. So keep the goal. Is the phrase, really.
That's the one. I think it's very easy not to do this, and it's something I have definitely been guilty of.
Yeah, same.
For
Hands
sure.
up.
So, I mean,
Program hopping.
I
that sort of
changed
stuff.
my goals around a lot because of what I was learning about at the time. So I used to just change it because I wanted to try out those things. And the trouble with this whole like swapping around the whole time is you end up just getting nowhere. It's like you just get a little bit of everything, and at the end you're kind of like, well, like I was, you're just kind of like, oh well, I haven't really
Achieved
done
much in
that
amount of
much
time.
for where you could have potentially been if you stayed focused. So I'm gonna drive home this whole sat nav thing until you're fed up of it. But if you keep swapping around the destination, you're just gonna be going around in circles, and
Yeah.
then when you just pull over to the side of the road, you're like, well, I've just spent 5 hours driving. Where the
not
hell
going
am I
anywhere.
going? Yeah, I'm like, don't have a clue where I'm going. I haven't got to any of my destinations because
Yeah.
I keep changing the damn destination. Your sat nav's like, for crying out loud, man, can you just keep the damn destination in there so I can
Yeah.
get you where you need to be? So
a
you
good
need
analogy.
to stick with it, and I think a lot of the times you need to just, when you're about to make a decision whether change and everything, you need to sit down and be like, right, is this still my goal?
Yeah. Is
And
that
am
going
I willing to sacrifice like this amount of progress for like a little change in the program here or this? And the same goes for if you're thinking about adding something into a program or taking something away or doing something with your diet. It's just reminding yourself of that goal.
Yeah.
And if your goal has changed, if you truly think your goal has changed, like big term, then maybe you just need to like change it slightly, but it's often you probably won't change that substantially.
If you really think about a long-term goal,
Yeah.
it's very unlikely that long-term goal is going to change. It's just sometimes the short-term goal, like say sort of 3-month goal,
Yeah.
might change.
Yeah.
But then you've got to think, okay, that 3-month goal, is that ultimately going to get me to where I want to be
Yeah.
in 12 months' time?
Yeah.
And I think that's quite an empowering question to ask sometimes to people is, where do you see yourself in 12 months' time? Because quite often people haven't thought about that.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, right, what do
100%.
I want to do a year from now?
Yeah, and potentially another point to add to that whole changing your mind is it might be an indicator that you didn't do step one of setting the goal correctly. So, if you just randomly come up with a goal, chances are you're going to change your mind quick because that was just a spur of the moment goal.
Especially if it doesn't
If
mean
you've had a
anything to-
goal for a long period of time, so you've wanted to achieve this for a long period of time, you've actually thought it down and thought about it seriously, then chances are that's still going to be your goal going through it.
Yeah.
But if you just rush that process and then sticking to it is going to be so much harder because it wasn't really truly your goal.
Yeah.
If that makes sense in that kind of positional stance from that. In terms of like the actual techniques to staying to the goal, I think that's just specific about
It's very
what your goal
individual,
is,
yeah.
and that stuff is hard to get into for this. This is more of like an overview concept
Yeah.
about just staying true to your goals. But for sure, I think this is a thing that I'd say limits the majority of people. It's like, oh, I want to be able to deadlift this. Oh, no, I want to be able to do a bodybuilder. Like, I want to do a show. Oh, no,
Yeah.
I don't want to do a show. I want to do this. And we had Steve Hall on, and we talked about powerlifting and bodybuilding and the power building, and he said he just didn't really get anywhere. He just got fat. And that's what we mean is, like, if you don't have one
Jump
clear
between
goal,
the two.
it's just like you just end up getting
But it's
nowhere
the same
quick.
with everything.
Yeah, this relates to everything, really.
Like, if you sort of, you want to, everything's got to be in order to make that long-term outcome what you want it to be. And also understanding, I find with some people, when I'm coaching clients, is understanding why they want to achieve that goal. Because
Yes.
they might not even have thought about, sometimes just thinking about why you want to achieve that goal. I want to put on some size. Okay, well, why do you want to put on some size? Well, I don't know, I just like, when I see the guys in magazines, they're muscly, I like it. It's like, okay, why do you like that? It's like, and it sort of, it just breaks them down more, and then they will tell you, eventually, why they want
go and
to
do that.
achieve that. You just got to keep chipping in with the why and find out why using that as an example, not just getting bigger and gaining size, why they want to do that. Because then maybe when they veer off track and they're like, oh, but I don't want to do this hypertrophy stuff anymore, I want to do CrossFit, bro. And you're like, but wait a minute, you told me your goal was to put on X amount of size in a year.
And I think that's a good indicator.
It'll keep them on track.
Yeah, like I said, that's a good indicator of whether that was a goal. If you start training and then straight away you want to add something else in, well, that probably wasn't really...
Is it really a priority
your goal to start with? And that's not an issue. We're not saying...
That's a good point.
That none of this, we're not judging whether this goal is better than this goal. Again, it's all individual to you. We're just saying that if you're wanting to achieve something, and if you don't want to achieve that, then that's fine. I don't care. But if you're wanting to achieve it, what we get frustrated about is people not being able to get there because, one, they haven't set the right goal, and then they complain about not being able to get there because they're not staying to that goal because that goal wasn't actually what they wanted to achieve. It wasn't
actually a priority to them.
Yeah. It's like, I want to get big. Oh, actually, I want to run a marathon.
Yeah.
No, actually, that's never going to happen.
No.
I don't even know why my brain came up with that. Maybe it's the 2 seconds of cardio I did yesterday. It's changed my mind
He's changed,
a little bit.
guys.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I think I need to go to A&E quickly. Jump from skier. I was panic there. That's not good. Okay, should we talk more about clients now?
Let's do it. Let's go.
Lovely stuff. So, if you're a trainer, or if you've got people on, how would you go about managing expectations and figuring out what it is that they want, or just kind of dealing with them if they've got some outrageous goal that they want to achieve or time frame? How do we go about dealing with that? Let's address firstly.
So let's create an example. So we've got a female client. She's overweight, and she wants to lose, let's say, sort of 10 kilograms of fat.
Yeah.
And then we say, okay, when do you want to achieve this by? And she's like, I've got a wedding in 4 weeks' time. How do we break it to her that she's not going to? That's not possible, right? Because some people do approach us with unrealistic goals like this. And you, as a coach, I think you've got to have have integrity. Because what happens, I think they get there and think, oh, I want to lose weight for this event, but by that time it's too close. As a coach, I think you've got to have some integrity, and you've got to be honest with them and tell them realistically how long these processes take, how the process works. And stuff like that.
I mean, at the end of the day, when you just think about it though, is if you've got a client coming in and saying they want to achieve this goal, and you're saying, yeah, we can do that, but realistically, you know that's not really feasible, then they're not going to get it anyway. So there's no real benefit. Like, you might get their money for like half the time until they realise that you're for the crap.
You're just bullshitting them.
It's almost worse. I think dealing with someone like that, you've got to be positive about it. So there's no real point if someone's come in that scenario being like, no, you're not going to achieve your goal. Like, just straight up.
They can achieve it.
It's just figuring out like how to get around it, what's going to be more realistic, whether that's still going to be amazing results, we're still going to get really far with it. It just might not be that number, that random. Also, a lot of the times with weight loss, it's just some random arbitrary number that they think that they want to be at. It's like, that's the trouble when focusing on like a scale weight, is
they just want to look better.
And that whole like, why is the goal yours goal? So sometimes that arbitrary number you can kind of manipulate and say, right, well actually, if you drop this much weight, even though it's half of the number you said originally, it's still going to be a big impact. So I think dealing with clients, you've got to try and maintain a kind of positive outlook on it, because you can still achieve a lot in a short kind of time frame. It's just, you've just got to kind of just go through it all. And also just say, right, if it's weight loss, it's going to be an easy one, because you can kind of say, right, chances are they've done it before, so you can just phrase it as, okay, have you tried to lose a large amount of weight in a quick period of time? And then they probably would have done. So you can be, okay, and how well did that work for that? And they might have lost a ton of weight relatively quick, and then it's like, then getting them to think long term, right, but you're still back here in the same scenario. So would you rather just lose a ton of weight for this one event and then just regain it and not worry post that, or think about yourself in 2 years' time would you rather be in better shape that 2 years mark and continually through that 2 years post that kind of like event and be in really good shape and look much better after that? And if you want just to look good for that one event, then again, no judgment, that's fine. Let's get that goal and achieve that. But we're just trying to get you to open up the mindset and the fact that you might be sat there thinking, no, it is just that event that I want to achieve. But when you actually sit down and think it through, actually you would like to have longer term success. Like, try and think past the wedding, try and think past this work through, try and think past this birthday in terms of what's beyond that, because there is stuff beyond these events, so you need to think about that.
That's again, that comes down to sitting down with your client and actually finding out why they want to achieve that goal. Because if you say, say, let's use that example, she wants to lose 10 kilograms before the wedding, right? I've forgotten what time frame I used.
4 weeks.
4 weeks, okay. But you would then like ask her, okay, why do you want to do that? Likelihood is she's going to be like, because I want to fit into this dress to look amazing. And then be like, okay, well, that's actually then your goal for that time period. And then ask her, like keep chipping in to that sort of consultation process you're having and talk long term, like you said. Okay, so you want to look better for this wedding and fit into that dress you've got there. But what about the next wedding?
Yeah, exactly.
What about next year when your sister's getting married?
I think even if you
stuff
just
like that.
a lot of time, even if you just say, okay, and what about a week after the wedding? How do you want to look then? It's like they just can't see anything past that. And that will almost like straight away just throw a spanner in the works and be like, oh, shit, there's actually stuff beyond that.
And actually,
worry about.
Sort of go through maybe past events like say guys in the summer, right? The whole summer shred body thing. Say like, oh, how have you done this before? Like you said, how many times have you been through this process? And then okay, what about not having to do this every year? Quick sort of fix in the gym sort of thing.
And setting yourself up better longer term for everything. I think another thing I want to touch on in terms of that integrity as well is there may be a point where you just say that you aren't willing to potentially work with this person, because if they're coming into you with these really unrealistic goals and you don't want to, or you don't feel like you work with them to get there, and they're just being super unreasonable, they're
or
just
they don't
stubborn
like
in
the
that
process,
then you don't have to take people on just because of that. If they're not listening and not going through it, it's kind of like, why did they come to you? For your advice and for you to get them where they need to be. Okay, so you're there for a reason, and if they're just not listening to you, then what is the point? They're not taking anything on. So you need to realise that you should stay kind of true to what you believe in, and that's not saying that you should say no to every client, because you can still get around it, and it's more if you've tried all these things about kind of like rationalising with them, showing them what is more realistic, kind of developing this long-term attitude, and they're still not changing their mindset. They're like, no, this is what I need to do, like this is it. And if you're not willing to do it, then that's fine. Stay like true to what you believe in, and just stay with that. To
what you know and what you believe always is quite important with a coaching aspect of things.
100%.
It's like that our podcast last week with Steve. What did we ask him? And he said it was about the basics. Like, what if your client wants to jump in and do the extra stuff, like the 20%, when they haven't even nailed the 80%? And his answer was, well, if they want to do that, why am I there? Like, what's the point of me trying to educate them?
About is like, you hope that they come to you for the reason that, because you know what you're doing.
I think that's a big thing with personal training, online coaching, is that you've got to meet the client's expectations, but you've also got to set the expectations from the start, so like, say 6 months down the line, you go, oh, well, did this meet your expectations? They're like, no. That's probably because you didn't set the expectations.
Straight off the bat. You need to try and get as much off them as you can and really dig into what they want. And like you say, just set it up from the get-go. What you can do, what they expect from you, and everything like that. Because then they'll understand it as they move forward. And chances are, like, they've only got these unrealistic goals because of this random crap that they've been fed. Like when you actually give them
That's a good point.
good content as well,
Yeah.
and when you actually just give them the other side of the coin and just flip it over, because all they've seen is just that one side. So if you just flip it over and give them the other side, then chances are, like a lot of the time, it just balances out, and people are actually really understanding with all of this and be like, yeah, I kind of thought that was the case. That's fine. And then when you say it in that positive attitude as well, so that's why I said keep it positive. It's like it gives them good belief going forward. It's like, okay, maybe that 10 kilos isn't realistic. Maybe it is for someone else, but maybe it isn't realistic. This is why I think we should lose this weight. It's still going to do amazing. It's still going to look like how you want to look. It's still going to be spot on. And then it's like, good, you've set that expectation of that. You've got a more realistic goal. And then you can kind of work with that going
Keeping it in that sort of positive mindset, the flexible attitude sort of thing.
Shall we start summarising all that? Because I think that's everything that I wanted to cover.
I just want to add on there about like, so sometimes with your clients, they will want something. They're going to, for example, they'll want a 200 kilogram deadlift, but you've got to give them what they need, or also you've got to make them want what they need. So a good coach will make their clients want what they actually need. You'll sort of empower them with the knowledge. If you ask your client sort of why they need to, or why they're doing this stuff, say the exercise selected in their program, they should know why they're doing it. Because it empowers them for like future, and they should understand the sort of why they're doing that and why they need it as well.
That's a big thing. Big thing when it comes to the actual process of getting there, in terms of what they want to do versus what they need. And I think when it comes to programming, this goes for all sorts of clients, you need to give them the essentials of what they need, because if you don't give them what they need, then they're not going to get there. And then try and give them as much as they want as possible. Like give them as much as they want without affecting that need. So, for example, I listened to quite an amusing podcast about setting up a program with the 3MJ guys, and they said about if like a female wants to do glute kickbacks, it's not going to really harm their program that much, just chucking it at the end of the workout. So you need to give them as much as they need to reach their goal, and then just the extra stuff, kind of giving them what they want for that adherence side of things. But I think that given that want and need is a fine balance, and this all comes with practice as well. And like once you get more experience with it, it'll become easier, and like everything will kind of make more sense. But I think hopefully there's some helpful bits in there somewhere along the line. I know it wasn't super structured, but we kind of wanted to just talk through it. Yeah, we just wanted to chat through and like what we do as well and stuff like that. So to summarise, I think the first or main takeaway should be that the setting up of the goal, you need the initial process is probably the most important bit. It's like the setup of a deadlift. If you set up the deadlift wrong, you're going to deadlift wrong. And like do the start of goal setting wrong, you're not going to... Well, it's kind of like, if you do that deadlift, like if you set up correctly, there's a chance to pull wrong. But if you set up poorly, you're probably going to, there's definitely going to pull poorly. So, so set it up correctly, and then just staying true is the biggest thing. And then also, in terms of working with clients, is just be realistic with them. Set your expectations up front, manage those expectations in a positive way, and then just kind of dealing with it as you go through.
Awesome.
That's it.
So,
lovely stuff.
If you like it, then like it, subscribe,
share it around if it helps out. But if not, we will see you in the next podcast, whenever we do one.
Awesome.
Catch you later, guys.
Over and out.